Lori. Wanted to open by wishing everyone a happy Easter, and on behalf of the flight operations team, thanks again for your continued interest in our mission. Yesterday, the flight crew finished up their day with a manual piloting activity where they took the spacecraft into 6 degrees of freedom, 3 degrees of freedom, and then we purposely deselected a few thrusters to characterize the performance of the spacecraft with some thrusters disabled. We also performed a public affairs event with the Canadian Space Agency. We had a couple of routine medical conferences. The flight crew reviewed the science plan that our science team has put together for them. And then we also performed a few activities to help characterize the carbon dioxide removal capability of Orion. When we did a few back-to-back exercise sessions, we wanted to understand just how capable the CO2 removal system was, and the results have been very favorable to date. Today, the astronauts started their day with an opportunity to put their orange launch and entry suits back on. You can imagine that when you put your orange launch and entry suit on in 1G back in Florida, it's a lot different when you try to put it on in zero gravity. And so we gave the crew a chance to practice that before they have to do it on entry day. And since the crew were wearing their orange suits, we also used this time today to practice a few contingency scenarios where they may, if they had to spend extended time in those orange suits, how would they practice drinking their protein shake or delivering medication? And how would you set up the seats in Orion while you're wearing the bulky suit? These are things that they would need to do in a contingency, and we wanted to be able to practice these before if we found ourselves in a scenario where we would need to do them. Once we finish the suited operations, we're going to turn our focus towards trajectory correction maneuvers. We're going to perform the outbound trajectory correction maneuver number 3. This is actually going to be the first one that we actually do. We found that Orion was on such a pinpoint trajectory that we didn't need to do the first 2 correction maneuvers. The one today we're going to do later on is 9.9 feet per second. It'll take about 14 seconds. And it's going to use the auxiliary thrusters on the Orion service module. We have a few other medical conferences later today. We're going to do a demonstration of in-flight maintenance where we remove one of the panels of Orion to demonstrate that you know, if we needed to get back behind one of the Orion spacecraft panels, we could do so and maybe perform a maintenance activity if we needed to. And then while the crew's asleep, we're going to perform a demonstration on the ground using our optical comm system. We're going to increase the bandwidth to 100 megabits per second using our optical comm system and our ground station in White Sands, New Mexico. The most exciting portion of the overnight hours here on Earth is going to be when Orion enters the lunar sphere of influence at 12:40 a.m. Eastern Time. That is significant because that's when the moon's gravity has a stronger pull over the Orion spacecraft than Earth's gravity. And so that's a significant milestone on our mission. I also wanted to comment a little bit about my console activities. I worked the past 3 days as the lead of the planning shift on console and mission control, and I just wanted to highlight the exceptional job that those teams are doing a few hundred yards away here in mission control. The planning team is in charge of making sure all of the operational products are ready for the flight crew when they wake up in the morning. They're also in charge of executing some test objectives and activities to gather data on how Orion performs as it heads out to the moon. And I just wanted to highlight just what an exceptional job that team's been doing. And one of the highlights of working the planning shift, we saw the photo that Lori showed a few minutes ago. We gathered around the console when we downlinked that image, and the planning shift is the group of about 10 people who get to see that image for the first time. So before any of the public got to see those images that you saw on social media, my planning team working the overnight hours while the crew's asleep, we were the first ones on planet Earth to see those images. So it's a pretty special time. I wanted to end my remarks with showing a video of some remarks from our pilot, Victor Glover, which I thought were particularly poignant and were worth repeating. And so let's go ahead and play that video.
In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together. I think as we go into Easter Sunday, thinking about all the cultures all around the world, whether you celebrate it or not, whether you believe in God or not, this is an opportunity for us to remember where we are, who we are, and that we are the same thing, and that we got to get through this together.
All right, and that is the conclusion of my remarks. I'll hand over to our lead science officer, Kelsey Young.